Namaste, everyone. Namaste, pranam, and a very warm welcome to one and all. And it's a matter of great joy and pride to welcome you all to this Yoga Bandhan, a soulful event in the series of International Day of Yoga 2025 programs supported by Ministry of Ayush and Indian Yoga Association. As we celebrate the spirit of yoga across the globe, today's theme, Secrets of Yoga Therapy, invites us to explore the deeper healing powers of yoga beyond asana and pranayam that we see normally in day to day life in our surrounding. Yoga therapy is not just a set of practices, it is a powerful, holistic, humanistic approach towards health that nurtures the body, calms the mind, and uplifts the soul. Rooted in ancient Indian wisdom, it offers integrative solutions for modern day stress, chronic conditions, emotional imbalances, and guiding us towards complete well being and leading towards a spiritual, healthy lifestyle. So, we again welcome you all for joining the event. So, without any further delay, let us
It's 8 o'clock.
unfold these secrets together. And with awareness, curiosity, and gratitude, let invoke the Guru Gayatri. Join your palms together. Om Tat Paramparayaय Vidmahe Jnaneshwaraya धीमहि तन्नो गुरु प्रचोदयाते ओम योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंद गिरी गुरु महाराज की जय। ओम पुदवई कलमा मणि पुडवई शक्ति योगाचारिणी अम्मा जी मीनाक्षी देवी भवनानी गुरु माता की जय। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। So, thank you all. Now it's my honor and deep joy to welcome a living bridge between the ancient yogic wisdom and modern health science, our dearest Dr. Ananda Yogi Bhavanani sir, whose life itself is a living example of yoga in action. And now, what we are calling him is as the Ananda intelligence. We give him some inputs, and we get a lot of understanding. And today, we are going to unveil the secrets of yoga therapy. So he is the spiritual heir of the classical Rishiculture Ashtanga Yoga, the Gitananda Yoga, which was expounded by the world-renowned Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giriji and nurtured by Yogacharya Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani ji. Dr. Ananda sir is a medical doctor, yoga therapist, researcher, and cultural ambassador who carries forward this legacy through his global teaching, clinical work, and deep spiritual insight. His contribution blend ancient wisdom with modern therapeutic applications, making him a guiding light in the world of yoga therapy and helping many people like us. Please join me in welcoming Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Balogi Bhavanani ji to share his profound insights on the secrets of yoga therapy. Welcome you, sir.
Namaste, Dhanyabad, Nilachal, and thank you very much for putting together this very beautiful Yoga Bandhan. The Yoga Bandhan is a signature event of the Ministry of Ayush Government of India and part of the 10 signature events that were conceptualized for the 11th International Day of Yoga 2025. I am truly privileged that the ministry had asked us to conduct these programs, and this is the 5th and final of our series of Yoga Bandhan from ISCM of SBB and the IYA, the Indian Yoga Association. Today's topic is very special, and we have with us an amazing lineup moderated and conceptualized by my dear Nilachal. We have with us Yogacharya Jnandev, who is spearheading the Yoga Chikitsa movement in the UK and Portugal, as part of his taking forward the living tradition of Gitananda Yoga and the Sanatan. We have with us Kamala Pilgrim from Canada, who integrates the concepts of yoga, yoga therapy into her psychology practice. We have with us Karin, all the way from Brazil, who has trained with my beloved Yogacharya Ananta and now continues taking forward the Gitananda teachings in so many ways. We have with us my dear Don Browning, who again is a graduate of Yogacharya Anantaji's Integrative Yoga Therapy program and taking forward these teachings. I would like to specially welcome Yogacharya Anantaji, who's with us, and a very beloved, dear friend, brother of mine, who enabled me to take my teachings to North America through his Integrative Yoga Therapy program. And very special to have him, Bharataji, Mandaviji, Dr. Meena with us. We have so many of you from different parts of the world. And this is what Yoga Bandhan is all about, bringing together all of us as a family. One Earth, One Health was the slogan for this year's Yoga Day. And yoga is the glue that holds us all together. This event looks at Yoga Chikitsa, the application of yoga as a therapy. And when we talk about yoga as a therapy, it is vital to understand what is the purpose behind the application of yoga as a therapy. It is not just to fix things or fix people or fix problems, which is why Yoga Chikitsa is not just a quick fix for every problem that we have. Again, Yoga Chikitsa, yoga therapy doesn't believe in one pill for one ill or one size fits all. Because Yoga Chikitsa approaches the human being. This is the salutogenic orientation of Antonovsky, which is the Swasthya approach of Indian healing traditions, where the person is at the center of our therapeutic process and not the disease. So I think the fundamental secret of yoga therapy, which is the title of today, is that it is not disease-oriented, but it is person-centered. The second secret, it is not outcome-oriented, it is process-oriented. So yoga as a therapy, and yoga chikitsa is the appropriate term, is process-oriented, person-centric, and is salutogenic in orientation. It shares a lot of commonalities with some beautiful concepts that I have got to love over many decades. The first concept is one that was postulated and brought out well by my dear Albert Einstein, who said, science and religion, I paraphrase it, science and spirituality, are two eyes. And science without religion, as he put it, is lame. Religion without science is blind. And you need both. So I think one of the first and foremost concepts that I would like to share today is it is not science or spirituality, but it is science and spirituality. So this is a very important point to keep in mind. Science and spirituality. There's no dichotomy, there's no division. When I look through one eye, I have one perspective. When I look through the other eye, I have another perspective. When I look through both, I create a new dimension. That holistic dimension is the dimension adopted by yoga as a therapy, yoga chikitsa. It is not reductionist, it is inclusive. Modern science, modern medicine often reduces the person to organs, systems, and today we go all the way down into the molecular mechanics and dimensions of health and disease. So it is very microscopic. It is constantly looking at the small picture and magnifying the small picture so you can understand the small picture better, more, and look at it in greater detail. The yoga drishti is taking the opposite perspective, the contrary perspective. It says you are not just your cells, you are not just your organs or your organ systems. You are not just this physical body, but you are a body that functions. You have a body that is functional and capacity for psychological dimensions. More than that, as a human being, you are endowed with the power of choice. And then no man, well, no woman, no person is an island. We are all interconnected, which is why One Earth, One Health understands that it is not just human health that we need to focus on, but health of the entire planet and every being that exists on this blue planet. Yoga Chikitsa tries to understand what is at the root of our dukkha, our suffering. That root cause analysis, I think, is best provided by the yogic philosophy, the yogic psychology, and the yogic spirituality. Swami Gitananda Giri, my beloved father and guru, he would say the first disease is the disease of duality, where you feel different than the universe in which you exist. The moment you feel separate from the universe in which you exist, dukkha has started. Because separation creates duality, duality creates friction, friction creates heat, heat creates its own suffering, and the whole downward spiral of the humankind begins with separation. When we talk of yoga, our Vedas, our Upanishads give us so much of food for thought. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the largest, most expansive Upanishad, says, from duality, dvitiyam, comes fear, bhayam. From separation comes fear. And once fear comes, all your survival mechanisms, the stress mechanisms come into play. And once they come into play, congratulations, dukkha will manifest sooner than later in greater and greater magnitude. The yogic philosophy, the yogic psychology and spirituality says we are human beings, but at the same time, we have forgotten our divinity. We are individuals who have forgotten our universality. And this is why, to paraphrase Maharishi Patanjali, we are the divine suffering temporary amnesia. We are the divine suffering temporary amnesia, and we have forgotten we are the divine, we are the universe. We think we are the drop, we have forgotten we are the ocean. Why? Because of the kleshas. The kleshas, which Maharishi Patanjali postulates, are at the root of all human suffering, and any root cause analysis in Yoga Chikitsa must and I'm going to underline that with green, blue, pink, whatever highlights you like. Every root cause analysis in Yoga Chikitsa must include the Klesha model of Maharishi Patanjali. It is the best model to understand human suffering, dukkha. Why do we have dukkha? Because we have forgotten who we are. What is that called? Avidya. Because of avidya, we have forgotten who we are. Remember, we are the divine, we are the universe, we are Ishvara. We have forgotten it. We now create an artificial identity called Asmita. This artificially created identity has likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha, and wants to survive at any cost, abhinivesha. This is the greatest model of human suffering. Now, helping somebody stretch their gastrocnemius muscle, helping someone stretch the hamstrings, helping them open the shoulders is all good. But is it looking at the root cause? The root cause is avidya. The root cause of all the suffering, the karma-based suffering, dukkha, is the klesha. Patanjali again says, klesha moola karma shaya. Because of the kleshas at the root, the karma manifests, and karma manifests as the dukkha. So the biggest secret of all yoga therapy is, until and unless you address the root cause, tasya hetu avidya, that avidya, you will not find a permanent solution to the suffering of humanity. We can help the person physically to feel better, which is good. We can help them to have a tranquility psychologically, which is also good. We can enhance the emotional intelligence of the individual, which is great. We can reduce the stress, which will enable psychosomatic harmony. We can enhance the functionality physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, financially, spiritually. All of that is great. But that seed of all suffering, avidya, still remains. And that is why, as a yoga therapist, I think, along with quick fixes, along with a few bandages here and there, I think most importantly, we must enable that individual who's seeking care, the care seeker, to move from where they are to where they can be. As Abraham Maslow says, what we can be, we must be. And what we can be is not just, positionality, academics, financial stability. It is the highest Ishvara itself. So with that call for a greater perspective of Yoga Chikitsa, I'm looking forward to listening to all our panelists today. And thank you everyone for joining us. The more we come together, the more we share together, the more we learn together, the more we can grow and glow together in yoga. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much, sir, for these insights. And every time when we listen you, we have a better and broader perspective and something new we come to learn. And how you mentioned the scientific spirituality aspect, that is the most needed concept that in the modern era, and especially in the field of yoga chikitsa. So we need here to have a holistic healing and inner balance. Thank you so much, sir. And with that, I'd like to again welcome all the panelists in today's program, where we are going to discuss the Yoga Chikitsa in the context of Gitananda yoga tradition. And we are really blessed to have these panelists from different disciplines and corners of the world, all rooted in this divine Gitananda yoga tradition. And in the upcoming time and in the upcoming the discussion, we will be having a better perspective on the yoga chikitsa from the research culture Ashtanga yoga tradition. And let us we will go in a sequence where we will be having introducing one of the panelists, and then we'll ask a basic question, then we'll go on like that. First of all, I would like to introduce Yogacharya Jnandev Giri. Uh, he is our, it's our great honor to welcome Jnanadev, Yogacharya Jnanadev Giri, a devoted teacher, author, and founder of Sanatana Yoga Gurukul and Yoga Satsang Ashram, UK. He is a senior practitioner of the Rishiculture Ashtanga Yoga tradition. He has dedicated his life to preserving and sharing the authentic roots of Sanatana Dharma and classical yoga, as taught by Swami Gitananda Giriji and under the guidance of Ammaji Yogacharini Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani ji, and with over 2 decades of teaching experience and 14 authored books. Uh, he has deeply continued to spread the knowledge and wisdom of yoga across the UK, Portugal, and over various parts of the world. So let us warmly welcome Yogacharya Gyandev Giriji as he guides us towards a deeper understanding of yoga as a holistic and sacred way of life. With the question, the basic question I have for you, like having lived and taught in the Sanatan Dharma and trained in Rishi culture Ashtanga Yoga, experienced teachings both in the Bharata, India, and abroad, how do you view the role of daily sadhana, mantra, swadhyaya, and dharmic living as essential pillars of yoga chikitsa? From your experiences, why is this inner alignment with the principles of Sanatan Dharma is vital, not only for physical healing, but for restoring harmony in the mind and awakening of the soul?
Thank you, Nilachal. I think your introduction probably it's a bit too much for anyone, especially for it's definitely putting quite a lot of pressure. And then I don't know. I also find it interesting to talk after my teacher, Dr. Ananda. It can be easier if I request for future. Like if we talk before you, then you can cover up all the mess we make. If you don't mind. I'm not sure the rest of the panelists how you all feel, but I think for me, as if I have my teacher with me, I would rather have it other way around, if I be honest. But yeah, thank you. And thank you, Nilachal, for that ego introduction. But I guess I'm just, as Amaji always say, that I'm doing my best to share my experience and the teachings or understanding of Sanatan Dharma, and then the yoga therapy, and the Gitananda system of our evolutionary progress, I guess you can call it, in spirituality. Now, in the context to yoga or the evolution and yoga chikitsa, from my personal experience, I really don't think it matters on which part of the planet we live in, because it's not that external environment that creates the space for sadhana. It's the internal desire or that internal strength, you can call it, the virya, you can call it, or even that little seed in all of us that says, I had enough of the suffering. As you know, Dr. Ananda was explaining this root cause of the suffering, the kleshas, and especially the avidya. And the way I look at it from my daily perspective, daily sadhana, is, you see, we suffer in the darkness of ignorance or avidya or lack of this true abundant knowledge of non-duality. But the essence is the darkness itself does not have its own existence. You know, if you say, like, can you go out and punch the darkness? Can you do something with the darkness? We cannot fight with the darkness. We cannot do anything with it. But we can light a lamp. We can, you know, open the window. We can even, as simple as open our eyes. So in that way, we can develop some access to our cognitive awareness, which is connected with the world. So this concept Dr. Nanda was sort of explaining us, if I take it forward, this concept of ajnana, if we replace it with the jnana, So knowing this world is the Maya of manifestation, but of course, from the perspective of suffering, we see the suffering in the world. From perspective of the yoga or the yogic wisdom, there is abundance, there is joy, there is love, there is people, there is amazing people everywhere. You know, maybe we all having good and bad time, hard and the blissful time, but there is the heart or the spirit within everyone is seeking for that joy, seeking for that light, seeking for that bliss. But then how do we bring that light? To me, that light is sadhana. Now, in our day-to-day sadhana, you know, in especially when we look at our holistic Gitananda system, you know, when I look at the yoga in our modern world, you go to a school, there is a Hatha Yoga, there is a Mantra Yoga, there is a Bhakti, there is a Pranayam, there is philosophy, there is meditation. While in Gitananda Yoga, each one of them is inclusive as a tool. We learn and we practice them. So as Nilachal was asking rightfully, what is the role of, you know, maybe the Gayatri mantra chanting in the morning, or maybe do some pranayam, do some Hatha Yoga, you know, go and be with the society with the attitude of service, or the yamas and niyamas when we meet out with people. So actually, this whole some concept of Gitananda Yoga and these holistic tools, they really are meaningless, or more like one of my favorite phrase, actually, it comes from Swami Vivekananda. He said that wisdom without the practice is just a poison. It's toxic. So as Nilachal, you were saying, what's the role of the sadhana? Sadhana is what we know, the tools that we have been blessed by our gurus, our teachers, our ancestors, bringing them in practice. And I think when we bring those practices, those tools in life, I do remind everyone, including myself, this Amaji's favorite mantra, she keep repeating over and over again and again during 6 months. Do your best and leave for the rest. This non-judgmental attitude or non-comparing, non-competing attitude, that you work on yourself, you keep igniting that light, you keep igniting that prana or that antarjyoti to work through this darkness. So if you wish to dispel the dark, like the word guru itself, the gu and the ru, the dark and the removing of the darkness. So either we look at the yoga, we look at the Sanatana Dharma, we look at the Yoga Chikitsa. These are in a complete picture, ways to connect with ourselves. So that's going away from that panch kleshas, transcending the avidya or ajnana, and connecting with the core of our existence or atman or spirit, that allows us to become one. Now that oneness can be, you know, there is so many perspectives in Yoga Chikitsa or the Sanatana Dharma. You can think of the oneness of the Panchkosas. So, you know, looking after our physical, our energetic, our psychic, and then our cognitive or our absolute intelligence and the spirit itself. Maybe we can look after our Panch Pranavayus, we can look after our chakra system, we can look after our intersocial relationships, our relation with the world. As Dr.Ananda in beginning was mentioning, the health is not just looking after me. I also need to look after the earth. I need to look after the environment around me. So the sadhana really is to work on ourselves. And, you know, there is no way we can change the outer world. We cannot change other people. We cannot change anybody else. The only person we can change or we can manifest the change is within us. And I believe, and this is something I experienced, that when we make that change within us, when the inner darkness dispels, people around us also feel motivated or feel drawn to find a way to be free from the darkness. So yes, Nilachal, if we wish to be free from the darkness, then we need to find this what we call the regularity, repetition, and rhythm. But here, the rhythm and the regularity is not just like doing the same thing again and again. It sort of really depends how you feel. You know, some days, if I wake up and I feel, what's the point in everything and anything? if I chant a couple of Gayatri mantras and connect with the Lord Ganesh, helps me to move forward. If I need that Shakti, the connect, chant the Gayatri mantra for Durga. So in a way, it's sort of connecting through that energy. If I feel that lethargy or heaviness, then probably do the Nadi Sodhan Pranayam or the Brahmari Pranayam, the Pranava Pranayam. If you need to have a mobility of your body, mind, and your energy, then a little bit of Hatha Yoga, probably a Surya Namaskar or something. But if you wish to move forward in your life, I personally believe that we need to work on all of us. Okay, when I say all of us, that means we need to work on our body, we need to work on our food or diet, we need to work on our mind, our thoughts, our mantra, our prana, our energy system, and as well as our whole life philosophy, which is the whole yoga is about understanding the universe, our role in this universe from the very perspective of the spirit, which is the Anantam or Satchit Anandam, and then the very perspective for material mind, which survives for existence. The fight, flight, or the reptilian sort of mind we live in. And yeah, it is a blessing to have our Gitananda system, where there is a tool to work on each of our aspect. We have, let's say, Surya Namaskars to regain our mobility. We have the Loma Viloma sequence to regain our polarity. We have the pranayam practices to work on our 5 building blocks, our elements. We have the yoga darshan to work on our psychology. So for that sadhana purpose, I feel it doesn't matter where we are, because that sadhana will follow us with or within our heart, and we create that ashram space, we create that sadhana space wherever we are. So I think that's sort of like, considering I know Dr. Ananda kept it really very precise, so I will keep it also precise to let you all come back. I hope I answered what you were asking, Nilachal.
Yes, Gandhiji, thank you so much for your answer. And definitely, when doctors have started with the three secrets that he mentioned, with the person centric approach that we have with the yoga chikitsa, then the process oriented, then the salutogenic orientation. From you, we get a very detailed, in a very in a capsule of the three R: repetition, rhythm, and regularity. And do your best and leave the rest. So for the audience, it is very much needed to keep noting it down, all the secrets, before you forget anyone. So thank you so much, Gandhevji. And definitely wisdom and practice both are needed to be integrated. And without that, it is very difficult to have a healthy body, mind, and soul. So holistic health depends on the sadhana that we have, and 24 hours sadhana, and that is equals to the yoga, not only for 1 hour that practice is done. So thank you so much for putting that together. Now, coming to the next panelist, I would like to uh, welcome Karin Silberg. Uh, it is my heartfelt pleasure to welcome Karin Silberg. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Apologies if there is any mistake. Uh, a dedicated physiotherapist, acupuncturist, and yoga therapist who beautifully blends science, movement, and mindfulness in her healing work. Trained in the Gitananda Yoga tradition under Dr. Ananda Balogi Bhavanani ji, Karin brings depth, compassion, and a deep connection to nature into her therapy and teaching. She mentors therapists globally and is co-authoring the upcoming book Pranayama for Healing and Transformation. And she is also a student of Anantaji. So she has a lot of understanding in the field of Yoga Chikitsa. And I also remember the last time when you came to Pondicherry and visited our university, we had a discussion in the ortho department, and we were seeing some patients who were coming, and we had a very detailed discussions over the setup, yoga therapy, your work, and our work, and all. So it was a beautiful experience to had you and a person as well. And now we are here with the online with the yoga chikitsa. So let's warmly welcome you and to get some insights on holistic healing and the way of life. And the question that I have for you, like as a physiotherapist and yoga chikitsa practitioner trained in the Gitananda tradition, how do you integrate physical therapy with yogic practices like asana, pranayam, maybe swar yoga, pranic awareness in your work with individuals experiencing the basic problems like the chronic pain, posture imbalances, or energetic depletion?
Thank you, Nilachal ji. Namaste, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And thank you for the question and a lot of the introduction. Well, as a physical therapist and moving into a yoga therapist, integrative yoga therapy, and after with the Gitananda Chikitsa yoga training, I got a lot of depth and open eyes perspective along the years. I have been treating patients 27 years now and moving into mentoring a little bit of therapist, yoga therapist, and physiotherapist under care seeker care. And I think the main thing that I bring, that my learnings are on those times, and especially bringing into after the getting the blessed and receiving all the tools of the Gitananda tradition. I see that in any dysfunction or illness that a care seeker present, it's a message. And I think Yoga Chikitsa helped us to facilitate that message, to decode that message, facilitate the care seeker to decode that message and to understand that message. So looking at the imbalance or that illness or that disease as a manifestation of that something it's going on. And that message is an opportunity for the care seeker to review values, rethink relationships, and rethink their attitude within the world, within their family, and within the environment that they are in. So when I see an individual, like my amnesis process, I will always look into their body language, right? As a physical therapist, as I will look into their posture, their breathing pattern, their past medical history, current life stressors, their relationship with and their families, their relationship with the natural world, which dear Jnandev ji also brought. The importance of the relationship with nature around is very important, because as Sankhya philosophy says, everything that is outside is inside of us. So how is that relationship with that care seeker? Like that will give me, so every little piece, it's a clue, right? So the tools that were granted, especially through Yoga Chikitsa training, helped me to deepen my anamnesis process a lot, bringing a lot of philosophical and spiritual basis to that anamnesis that before I also before just as a physical therapist was very superficial, was very separated, and was not together. And during years like training with Anantaji and integrative yoga therapy, I said, oh, those pieces actually tie together. This was my learning with integrative yoga. And then with Yoga Chikitsa and then the Gitananda 12-point of diagnosis system of this tradition, this parampara, I was able to deepen and the pieces there are several pieces that we need to really look into, but they are all tied together. So I was able to find all those pieces, more and more details, and I was able to see like the big picture more and more around that clue that is the illness or the dysfunction. And then find like the tools that Gitananda Yoga brought to me, like the jatis, the kriyas, the yana yoga kriyas, the pranic manipulation, dharana, mantras, I was able to bring those tools very little by little through my care seekers, and understanding that, and this was a lot of learning that I have with Jnandev, like it's not like 1 hour a session, but how can I bring that like little drops several times a day, like giving like homework to the care seeker, several like little drops during the week. This will make a difference. And not like 1 week, a session where I would do acupuncture or or something like this. And then, oh, we are not moving as I wanted to move with the treatment. But then now, okay, if I give little by little, little drops, you do it like 10 minutes in the morning of this and 5 minutes in the evening. And the results start to spark and like flowers starting to bloom. And this was very enlightening, I think, from Yoga Chikitsa, like those little homeworks, those little pieces, like that actually changed a life. And sometimes, like yogopathy that Dr. Sir mentioned, and like I starting that homework, okay, like I will tell my care seeker that the goal is this, but let's put that a little bit of spirituality here, even though my care seeker was not even thinking about yoga philosophy or yoga spirituality. But now I understand that if we don't touch those places, healing will not occur. So how I can bring in drop by drop that focus of that care seeker to look to these areas that are so important and that really what really matters, and that their illness, their chief complaint really, it's just a message. And what is behind that message? So we try starting to, Yoga Chikitsa helped to bring light to that other areas that are behind that message. Um, for example, I can bring an example and just let me in passing my time. Seeker that has like 37 years old, but with 18, he had a lobotomy of his upper lobes of the lungs, left lung. He took like 1/3 of the lung out due to cancer. And he came to me like feeling that, willing like to gain breath capacity, lung expansion. Beside that, he was feeling like he always had lack of energy. And we started to work like with Athena's what he wanted to do. But then so little by little, I was putting in spirituality and putting in other factors that improves his life a lot, and also his connection with all the elements and all the energetical world. So that is what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Karin. Thank you for that beautiful sharing. And definitely, like the homework that works a lot, and the relationship with the nature and how you mentioned with the care seeker as well is very much important. And definitely from where you have mentioned and with the Jnandev ji that he has pointed out, I have his book only with me, if you can see. So definitely it is very much important, and where the 12-point diagnosis system of the Gitananda yoga tradition, it is very vital. And the practices that it offers, like the hatenas and all the other practices of the pranic practices related with the Jnana Yoga Kriyas and all the relaxation and everything that goes in the Loma Viloma and other all the therapeutic approaches that it offers, has a lot of to do in the helpful in the yoga chikitsa. With that, I just want to like with the audience just give one more point here, like the secret that we're getting here, the therapy aspects of the Gitananda Yoga tradition, that is 12-point diagnosis system. Then the Hatenas, if you don't know, Hatenas is also one of the very important, powerful practice in this tradition. And the important part is like the relationship with the nature and the care seeker. So those are the secrets, a few more secrets. And there is a and I had a very good experience in this tradition where I enrolled with the yoga step by step correspondence course, which was happened during the COVID time, and it was really a transformative journey there for the whole 1 year. And it taught a lot related to the yoga chikitsa approach that we can have. And besides having a background of yoga, a student in bachelor's and master's, it helped me to learn a lot of things new. So those who are new to this tradition or listening something new, they can start the yoga chikitsa journey with the yoga step by step course. It is a very correspondence course. It is very beginning journey where you can learn a lot of aspects of yoga chikitsa. And we will share you the details in the mail. And now coming back to our next panelist without taking much of the time. So I'd like to welcome Dawn Browning. It is a pleasure to welcome Dr. Dawn Browning, a certified yoga therapist who published a researcher and a dedicated practitioner of the Rishiculture Ashtanga Gita and the yoga tradition. With over a decade of yogic study and a PhD in ecology, Dawn beautifully bridges scientific research and traditional yoga wisdom to support holistic healing, mental clarity, and energetic balance. Founder of Whole Soul Wellness in New Mexico, USA, she continues to inspire through her teaching, writing, and ongoing yoga research. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Dawn Browning to share her insights on integrative yoga and whole person wellness. And the question that I have with you is like, with your unique background as an ecologist and yoga therapist, how do you perceive the interconnectedness between environmental rhythm, this pranic intelligence, and whole person healing as taught in the Gitananda yoga tradition?
Namaste, everyone. I will repeat that I am honored to be here and very excited and so I'm honored to be part of this panel. So I want to, as I respond to that really great question, Nilachal, I want to thank you for that because it's inspired me to it's inspired me greatly with different ideas. I will say that my background in ecology and and through the integrative yoga therapy program, and then with the Gitananda yoga tradition, I can't not see the interconnectedness of all things. It's almost potentially could be a personality flaw. Right? I mean, they're like things are not, nothing is simple, potentially. And I think the important thing that the gem, I guess, that came through for me, and I'll credit Swamiji with maybe dropping this into my mind, is that yoga is living ecology because everything is connected. Dr. Sir opened with this, yoga is the glue that holds us and it all together. Jnandevji with the 24-hour sadhana, and Karinji, oh my gosh, with the planting the seeds of sadhana with micro doses of spirituality. So that's what I've already received through the other speakers. I guess what I will add is that everything is connected, and that is true. And I think grounding that in an understanding of our environment, like you cannot be healthy in an unhealthy environment. You just can't. And it's because we are, everything that is outside of us is inside of us from Samkhya philosophy. And so it's really what I have come to understand most clearly through my sadhana and training in the Gitananda tradition and with the pranayama sadhana, and is really that I now have the tools that can make these concepts concrete. So I'm a very intellectual, or I think a lot. I spend a lot of time in my head, and through yoga and living it, it brings me into the body, into the moment, into my connection, and into relationship. And I think maybe that is my my nugget, if you will, is that yoga is living in relationship with all that is. And ecology offers so many concrete examples of this. And even bringing it to this very act of respiring. You're taking in the air from the outside and you're emitting CO2. That is the most intimate, potentially sacred exchange that there is. And I think that's become for me a really beautiful example that I am now carrying forward, largely in group settings, although I am working more with one-on-one care seekers. But it has been, I think, for me, that's been the way that I communicate. And I have found in this modern world of connection and this Zoom womb that we're currently in, there are also, with the modern portrayal of yoga, really some challenges with it that at least that I have seen, right? And that's why I love the microdoses of spirituality is maybe what I was missing and needed. But I do think that in working with others, you do need to offer a quick win. So it's not one pill for one ill, as Dr. Sir had indicated, but do deliver through your work with others, like something that they can grasp, like a quick win, because that will be that connection that they need in the mind, maybe that little hit of dopamine, if you will, to kind of keep going. And I think until the whole, like our global civilization can understand the true grasp of what yoga is, this multidimensional, multifaceted, true lifestyle medicine that Dr. Sir has said, like, I think as we are acquainting the broader public with the richness of what yoga truly is, those small steps, I guess I'll just re-emphasize what Karin G said, is, these small steps to start with. And I feel like maybe I lost something there. Oh, I wanted to come back to the oikos is the root of ecology and holos is the root of holistic. Oikos is home, holistic is whole. And I feel like both of these terms directly connect to yoga. I mean, which is the root of yoking. And I think that yoga is, I'm seeing it now more as like just the relationship, like mastering the relationships both with yourself and others and the world. So I really think, and I think with the Gitananda tradition specifically, is very grounded. It's tactical, but not constrained to being tactical. It offers very effective tactics. And I was struggling with how to say this, like these isms. I don't know if I want to say Gitananda isms or Swamiji isms, because it's also these punchy, relevant, wise things that Amaji and Swamiji and Dr. Sir have kind of delivered to us. The do your best and leave the rest is certainly one that's already been mentioned today. And yoga as like the art, science, and teachings of right useness. That was probably the first thing that really struck me early on, responsibly using resources. That includes your attention, your love, as well as the petrol. And so I think this kind of living in harmony is certainly what yoga is all about. And I guess the second part of the question, did you ask about the research component, Nilachal? Or was how research can validate yoga chikitsa?
Not, I just related with the intelligence and whole person healing as taught in the Gitananda yoga tradition. I think you have covered that part. If you want to answer something more, you're most welcome.
I just wanted to say one other thing, and that was related to how can the science of yoga research, I think maybe in our conversations, the word validate came up, and I feel like demonstrate may be a better verb to use to this, because the rishis have known a lot or all of these concepts that have been handed down through the millennia. And for us to try to constrain it to a single biological trait is, I think we're missing the mark. However, scientific evidence is certainly helpful and needed in some circles, and yoga research is so important, and I'm excited to be taking part in it. But I feel like we haven't yet developed the tools necessarily to quantify some of the things that are imparted through the teachings, and as researchers working with the general public, just to kind of help communicate that, I think would potentially help bridge a little more easily. So thank you for the time and opportunity to be here and share my thoughts.
Thank you, Don. And a lot of secrets we came to know now from your expression, and Dr. Sir has mentioned all those in the chat box. So,
I
uh,
just wanted to jump in for a moment, Nilachal,
yes,
because I think, Don, you have brought out a very beautiful point that we don't need to validate yoga. I think this is a very pertinent point, which I would like to reiterate to our audience, both the live and those who will watch it in the future, that yoga research, and this is as someone who for the last 30 years, that has been my life. Yoga research for me is not to validate yoga, but I do yoga research in order to understand it better. So I don't need validation. Anybody who practices and lives yoga knows that it works. So the yoga research outcomes, the papers, the publications, the projects are for the non-believers. That's actually what it is for. The person who's doing it, people say, why do you do yoga research if you know it works? I say, I know it works, but I want to understand the hows and the whys a bit more for myself so that I can explain it to others who may not have that capacity. So it is in order to have a communication, we need the research. But anybody who practices it, you know how you feel with any practice. You do Kapalbhati, you know your neurons are just singing with joy. You do Brahmari, they are all just enjoying that tranquil bliss. You don't need EEG electrodes to tell you that. But then somebody who doesn't do Brahmari, and you want to convince them to prescribe it for one of their care seekers, there you need the research. So I think it's a beautiful point you brought up. Thank you for bringing that up, because as a researcher, I think it is important to know why we are doing the research as much as doing it. Thank you for sharing, and please continue, Nilachal. I'm just enjoying this wonderful, beautiful team here.
thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. And here, Dhiru Didi also pointed it out beautifully, where she says that it quantifies what is quantifiable, and there is a lot which cannot be quantified and just experienced. So definitely, yoga is an experiential journey, and with that, we got a lot of secrets of yoga chikitsa from here. Like the yoga is a living ecology, planting the micro seeds and embodies the high ideals and makes them real. Yoga is the living in relationships with all that is. And yoga as lifestyle and mind body medicines. And small steps are important. And to understand these concepts more in a better way, there are a lot of articles that Ammaji used to write, and it comes in the Yoga Life magazine of the Gitananda Yoga tradition. And when I started reading it, it has a very deeper understanding, and it gives a very multidimensional articles, and there are a lot of perceptions where we understand yoga as a whole person-centric approach, and it gives a very better and broader meaning to yogic philosophy. So those who have not read Yoga Life earlier, you can check it out, and there are both Hindi and English versions of the Yoga Life. So these are very uniquely written. And Ammaji, who used to be a journalist, she has a beautiful way of writing, and her articles in English and which is also translated in Hindi, both are very beautiful and too easy to understand. So go and check out if you haven't yet. So now coming back to our another next panelist, Kamala Pilgrim from Canada. And it is with great joy and respect that we welcome Dr. Kamala Pilgrim, a clinical psychologist, yoga teacher, and passionate lifelong student of both science and spiritual wisdom. Based in Canada, Kamala blends her deep roots in psychology and neuroscience with the timeless practice of yoga. A dedicated student of the Gitananda yoga tradition under Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Bhavanani sir, she brings a truly integrative approach to healing. She is the founder of Inner Thriving Holistic Psychology, where she evidence-based therapy meets yogic insight. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Kamala Pilgrim as she shares her unique wisdom and vision of mind body healing through the unique union of psychology and yoga. And with that, I have a question for you. As a clinical psychologist, and you have studied neuroscience, how do you integrate evidence-based psychological approaches with yogic tools from the Gitananda yoga tradition, such as the pranayam, psychic neurology, and the understanding of conditions, situations like Nara, where misalignment among the Panch Kosha leads to psychosomatic distress? Over to you, Kamlaji.
Okay, thank you. Just echoing everyone else here. It is really such an honor to be included on the panel. Thank you so much for having me. So far, it's been very enlightening. I think that the question that you just asked me is just very much related to what we were just talking about, how a lot of the time within psychology and also in yoga, there is a lot of emphasis on empirical validation. And so I, as a clinical psychologist, am often asked, to use empirically valid treatments in my work with people. And so it's interesting because, as we were just talking about, a lot of the yoga practices are already very much demonstrated in the people that have practice with them. So if you have your own sadhana, you know that these practices are very life-changing. And so it's challenging in some ways because these outcomes and the outcomes of yoga practice itself are not always very obvious unless you're practicing. And it is something that I find interesting because we do have to do our clinical work under the realm of empirical validation as well. We have to be showing that the practices are valid in some scientific way, but oftentimes you only really see the outcome and the benefits of the practices from your own sadhana. And sometimes it's these subtle, small practices that you do a little by little every day, as we were saying, that really reveal the benefits over time. And so, yes, I think it's important to do the research and to continue to demonstrate the scientific outcomes, but a lot of it is challenging to actually measure. I think we don't have the tools yet, as Dr. Don Browning was saying, but we are developing them. And I think as well that a lot of it is subjective, and there needs to be an appreciation of that. So when I was thinking about answering this question, some other quotes came to mind as well. And it overlaps with a lot of what people have already said. So I thought I would share just a few. So Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri talks about how yoga therapy is the return of the mind. So the return of mind that feels separated from the universe in which it exists. And I really love that quote because it comes back to what Dr. Anandaji was saying at the beginning. about the importance of recognizing that human beings, all of us, are actually already whole. And when we perceive people in this way, it invites a certain level of compassion for ourselves and for the person that we're sitting with as well. And it's a less harshly pathologizing way of working with people. And it's also person-centered, as Dr. Anandaji was saying, as well as humanistic. So people are seen automatically as inherently good at their core and as having a natural urge and tendency to want to grow and self-actualize. So I really love that definition, because in my work with people, in trying to blend the yoga therapy in an empirically valid way with other psychology interventions, starting off with that framework is very helpful. Seeing people as whole and looking to see what are the processes or different ways of being that are contributing to them feeling out of alignment. And so a couple of other quotes that also overlap with my understanding of yoga therapy and why I think it's important to bring in yoga therapy with clinical work in psychology. One is by Dr. Anandaji that he shares quite often, which is, if it doesn't empower the individual from within, it is not yoga therapy. So we've been talking a lot about how we are all interconnected with everything else. And what I love about the Gitananda tradition and the way Yoga Chikitsa is taught here is that it's an extremely empowering way of working with people. The emphasis is on helping people to feel that they have the power to bring changes into their lives on their own. And that doesn't mean that they don't ask for help or connect with other people, but the emphasis is on looking within yourself first and seeking to understand who you are and who you are as a unique soul. And then from going inward to outward to the way that you then interact with the world. So it's just, I love that emphasis of looking within first. And then that's why one of the practice mottos at Inner Thriving Holistic Psychology is flourish from the inside out. Because I feel as though that emphasis on looking within first is so important and enlightening. And the last quote that I thought I would share, that it's Dr. Anandaji's interpretation of a Bhagavad Gita passage, and it's lift the self by the self. And so the first self is with a small s and the other s is with a bigger s. So it's indicating that we have that ability to look within ourselves in order to grow and evolve. It's all coming from within and going outward. And yes, even though we will want to connect with other people and recognize that connection more deeply, it often does start with going in and lifting the self purposefully with intention from the inside out. So those were just some quotes that inform why I think it's important to include yoga therapy into psychology work. And to answer the question that you asked more specifically about how I can integrate evidence-based psychological approaches with yogic tools from the Gitananda tradition, there are a few ways, some of which are a little bit more implicit. So I think it starts at the level of when I'm first meeting with clients, coming back to that humanistic, person-centered way of interacting with people. So the Gitananda Yoga Chikitsa tradition really emphasizes listening for specific information and observing specific things. So going back to the diagnostics that we use, we are observing the way people are moving, their tone of voice, their mannerisms, the words that they're not saying, the words that they are saying. And yes, in clinical psychology, we're also trained to do that. This is a little bit part of our work in the clinical interviewing process. But within the Gitananda Yoga Chikitsa school, I feel like it's even more deeply ingrained that we're looking for very specific things. So, or different behaviors when we're observing people. And so, for example, we might be looking for, as I said, patterns of speech, movements, how people are moving, etc. And that can really help us to understand the person on a bigger level. And then also it can help us to later use interventions that are tailored to that individual more specifically. So it helps us to develop hypotheses about the kinds of interventions that would be good to use. So things like looking for the energy that the people are exuding, tamasic, rajasic, sattvic, and then having understood that, later being able to help with specific interventions that can balance those energies. Another way that, again, is a little bit more implicit or subtle in terms of how I can bring yoga therapy into my work with people is through understanding exactly what Dr. Anandaji was saying at the beginning, that individuals are very, very complex. There's a tendency sometimes to try to box people in, especially when we give diagnoses. We can make assumptions about the kinds of interventions that might help that particular person. But in the Gitananda yoga tradition, it's very much ingrained in us to understand that there really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to working with people. And so in that initial intake, in those initial intakes, when we're doing this, getting to know the person and observing certain things and listening for certain ways of describing that the client may have, we're also staying attuned to what the root cause of the misalignment that the person is describing might be. And so if we have a person, for example, that I've diagnosed with depression, and we notice that they have all of the characteristic symptoms of that disorder, we would not necessarily make the assumption that we would just use one particular mode of therapy for them. Again, not a one-size-fits-all model. There are many individuals who are experiencing depression for various different reasons. It could be because of an overdoing in the world, over approach, versus a withdrawing. And understanding what that root cause of the disorder is just really important in terms of being able to tailor the types of yoga therapy as well as psychological interventions that we use ultimately. And then the third way that I thought of to share is a little bit more specific. So in terms of how I would integrate yoga therapy into psychotherapy work. So there are some specific interventions that are, again, empirically validated by a lot of scientific research. And so one way that we can bring the yoga therapy in is through using it as an adjunct to what is already being addressed in the psychotherapy. So cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most researched. Many people probably know of it. It's one of the most researched psychotherapies. And the model is depicted as a triangle where it's believed that thoughts are impacting emotions and behaviors. And those arrows that are connecting and influencing each other are bidirectional. But what's missing in that model is the physiological component. And so one way, as I was saying, that we can incorporate more of a yogic lens, yoga therapy, is through recognizing what is not addressed in one type of therapy in clinical psychology, and then bringing it in. So addressing the physiological component, which is not being addressed so much within CBT. We know, and what I understand from the Gitananda tradition and from practicing yoga myself, is that one of the best or one of the most beautiful contributions of yoga therapy is the ability to teach people skills and tools for relaxing and grounding. And so there are just so many tools that we can use to help people do that. And we can add that into an intervention that's already existing. Another way that we can bring in the yoga therapy in a way that would be seen as more empirically valid is through looking at the interventions, the psychology interventions that are already getting a lot of backing, and just noticing that a lot of the processes that are being targeted are already actually yoga, essentially. So one of the types of therapy that is used a lot more nowadays is called acceptance and commitment-based therapy. And it is a third wave type of psychotherapy that is an offshoot of cognitive behavioral therapy. And this particular therapy emphasizes process-based work, like Dr. Anandaji was also talking about earlier. So the emphasis is more on the processes that are going on, contributing to suffering. And there are 6 processes within ACT that are emphasized as important to address and to work with in order to regain a sense of alignment, or what is called psychological flexibility. Psychological flexibility is seen as a mark of health. And within the ACT, acceptance and commitment-based therapy approach, any psychological inflexibility is seen as contributing to dis-ease or lack of wellness. And so there are 6 processes involved in ACT, and 4 of the 6 are mindfulness. So one of them is acceptance, another one is, creating distance between the thoughts that are coming up, not hooking on to them in the mind, creating some distance non-judgmentally in the mind between the types of thoughts that are showing up, etc. And so another way that we can bring in the yoga in a way that would be seen as more empirically valid is by using skills that are already inherent to Gitananda yoga tradition that facilitate mindfulness. And there are many. And I don't know that, mindfulness is essentially yoga. It's just a term that was created by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn primarily. But it really stems from Eastern philosophy and from yoga. So there are many practices that we can work with within the Gitananda tradition that would be acting to facilitate mindfulness, acceptance, and ability to sit with difficult emotions, make room for them, all of which are targets within ACT already, if that makes sense. So those were some of the ideas that I had around how to incorporate yoga therapy in a way that would be seen as empirically valid. So hopefully that made sense. And I'll stop there for now. Okay.
Thank you for that beautiful sharing, Kamala. And
Thanks.
a lot of things to be taken from your sharing, and a lot of like Dr. Ananda sir is being repeatedly mentioning all the secrets that you are sharing with us all. And definitely, if we continue for this, like all more follow-up questions, it will come going, and we will not be finishing it in on time. And we have a lot of things to discuss, share, and this is just a glimpse that we are getting. So thank you
I
for those
wanted
beautiful sharing,
Nilachal.
Kamal. Yes,
Nilachal,
sir.
I would like to ask, as we have Yogacharya Anantaji with us, I would like to request him to share with us a bit because, as you know, Anantaji was honored as one of our Yoga Chikitsa Ratnas by the Indian Yoga Association and is a pioneer in this field. So having you here is so special. So I feel it would be wonderful to have your wisdom shared with all of us.
Thank you. Well, I've been doing, as you know, I've been doing a translation of the Yoga Sutras for the last 15 years. And so I just keep editing and editing and editing. So I think I'm on about the 5th or 6th edit. But so I'm back at the beginning right now. And so when we think about yoga therapy, I just think how important those first 4 sutras are. So now the journey of yoga begins. And so that now so important in terms of therefore I've made a decision. I've made a decision that the answer ultimately is going to be within me. It's not something that the world's going to give me. I'm going to be in relationship with the world. I'm going to be in relationship with my environment, but the world is not going to give me something that I can't give myself.
Now,
And the second part of that now is that it's only going to happen in the now. So the past and the future, I'm going to need to bring into the now in order to work with them. So those that therefore and that now, they're really the beginning of that journey. I've decided that I'm going to be working with my mind here and now. And then the next part is that stilling the mind. And so that's where all of these tools come in. And so when we talk about stilling the mind, I see that has 3 levels. The first are the techniques, and this is where I see the Gitananda tradition as being so absolutely unique, in that having spent 6 months going around all over India and
Anantaji, I think somehow the mute has come. We need to unmute.
yeah.
I think that's by mistake.
Uh-oh.
You're talking
So-
about 6 months in India.
Yeah. So, and seeing that this stilling the mind, I see it as having 3 parts. The first is the techniques. The second is the witnessing. And the third is recognizing our inherent stillness. And so what I saw in that 6 months is that the Gitananda tradition within India has a wealth of techniques that aren't available anywhere else. And that most of what I saw that was actually so unique and creative was really taken from the Gitananda tradition. And so those techniques and having this vast variety of techniques and having those techniques at all of the different koshas, I think that that's something unique to the Gitananda tradition. And then the second part of that is being able to, part of that witnessing is also this self-acceptance, being that inner psychologist. So Kamala was tying this in with psychology. So I think we can also be our own inner psychologist. And that inner psychologist also needs to be humanistic and accepting. And those are the 2 kinds of silence that I think really start to lead us to that third silence, which is that the nature of the mind, our essence really is silence. And then we discover our true inner being. So this is this self which has no description. So we look at all of the descriptions of ourself, and then we come to the self which has no description. And then what I see is in yoga therapy, gradually bringing this true self to the forefront of all our activities. And so integrating this true self into the Annamaya kosha, into the body, integrating this true self into our work with the chakras and our breath, bringing this true self to the forefront. So this true self is witnessing our thoughts and feelings, that this true self is really the motivation for awakening buddhi, this higher mind, the Vijnanamaya kosha. And then all of the positive thoughts and feelings that we experience in yoga, all of the Anandamaya kosha, this is really the reflection, this is really the personality of the true self. So there's just a few thoughts on these, a few sutras that we were editing this morning. I was editing this morning.
Thank you so much for that beautiful sharing. I was just thinking as you talked about the true self and letting that true self start to emerge and become the reality. It seemed like, the moving from what Patanjali calls anatma, the non-self, to atma kyati, the manifestation and realization of the real self. And he talks about how avidya confuses the non-self to be the self. And your explanation of the journey is the reverse, which is yoga chikitsa. Very, very beautiful to listen to you, Anantaji, because the experience that comes in, and I loved that you're on the 8th edit of your work on the Yoga Sutra, because 8 and Ashtanga Yoga go together. So I hope that it will be one of the final edits. Looking forward to it, of course. Namaste. Over to you, Nilachal.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Anantaji, for this beautiful sharing and like how you have pointed out the stilling the mind and the components of those techniques, witnessing and recognition. So thank you for that. And like we are over the time, so I would just like to move one more round with a simple one word or one liner to conclude with that. And going with back, I think I just thinking to make a garland that mala, not the mala, mala, so that we'll start with the Kamala only, and we'll go back to the dawn, then the uh, Jnandev ji, and then falling like that in that circle. So over to you, Kamala, just one liner, one sentence to concluding for the audience. You need to unmute Kamala.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I think I would say what resonates right now is harmony. So harmonious.
Okay, thank you. Dawn, what do you?
Yoga is living ecology.
That was beautiful. Karin, uh, I think you need to unmute. Okay.
Okay, now.
Please.
Yoga is going back home.
Nice. Thank you for that. Gyanadev ji.
I think for me, as we talk about this individuality and the universality in our spiritual and in the world of the Maya, not the word, look after the individuality. Because if we can look after our own self, our own dharma, health and wellness, the universe will be looked after itself. So self-care, self-love, and do your best and leave for the rest.
Wow. Thank you. And the mala or the beads cannot be completed with the sumeru that we do for the japa and all. So over to you, Dr. Sir, for that concluding remarks, and we'll conclude with the Shanti part.
Yeah. First of all, thank you everyone for being part of this, creating such a beautiful garland of gems, the secrets that now are not secret because they have been expressed. And I'm sure that Nilachal will come out with a summary of this for all of us to witness. But I think the greatest gift we have is to be born human. Even the gods in Indian culture are said to be jealous of human beings because we are embodied. They are not embodied. They are either Prakriti Laya or Videha. So we are embodied. Hence, we have the opportunity to do the two things that Patanjali says happen. One is have the bhoga, the experience, and then work towards apavarga or liberation. So we have been given this opportunity to be born human. Now it is our responsibility to be human and then manifest that inherent divinity that is our true natural state of existence.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll finish or we'll start this Yoga Chikitsa journey with the Shanti part, requesting all to join palms together. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you all for joining this Yoga Bandhan event, and thank you to the Ministry of Ayush and the Indian Yoga Association for supporting us. And thank you all the participants for joining us. Thank you so much.
I'm going to allow people to unmute and express their gratitude also now. So you can unmute and say thank you, anything you would like to share.
Thanks and gratefulness to you all.
Thank you so much, all speakers and Dr. Sir, and special thanks to Nilachal for organizing this.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful to meet together in the Gitananda family worldwide. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for a very insightful and inspiring panel. Really learned something new.
Hari Om, sir. I am very much gratitude towards Gitananda tradition. And from this, I learned that integration, yoga is the integration, means it's not only by integrating our Pancha Kosha, it is integrating with our society and also integrating with the universe and feeling the oneness that is Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. I felt very happy to be with you and learn to more from your side. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the inspiration that you all shared with us. And thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, insights, and it was really good. I learned a lot. I like the person approach, and I really admire that because it is how you empower people. It's not you make them dependent on you, but you need to empower them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was very inspiring. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of Gitananda family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This is Aman here. And the session was quite liberating for me, and how everything from spiritual aspect of yoga to yoga therapy, psychology, and everything, treating flexibility, polarity, psychology, all at one time, the way it blended together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be closing the meeting and looking forward to many more such interactions. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om.